Hello and welcome to PlayStation Racer. My name is Mitchell Morgan and today we're heading off for another World Circuit race. This one is going to be in Europe and it's going to be at the Autodrome Lake Maggiore, or the Lake Maggiore circuit. It's going to be the Red Bull X2019, but before we do that, let's just pop up to the options and make sure that we are on the race difficulty hard, the one that we are using for all of these races right now. We are, so we're good. We can come out of there. And then we'll head back to Maggiore, and this is the Red Bull X2019 Nations Cup race. We're in the standard competition Red Bull. I'd advise to use the anniversary one if you can get it. I've got the racing soft tyres on for a one-stop strategy. The suspension differential I think is pretty much set as normal. I've got the output adjustment 100, ballast 0, power restrictor of 100, and I've got the fully automatic racing transmission set to 330, and I believe that I have pushed out 7th gear just to give us a little bit of extra oomph if we need it. I've also got the brake balance set to -5. That's just to try and ease the wear on the rear tyres a little bit, if at all. So let's get into this one and see how we can do it. It's the Red Bull X2019 Nations Cup at Autodrome Lake Maggiore. Before we actually get into the race though, because it is so fast and furious, I'm going to do a slow motion run of my fastest lap. Now I must also stress that these laps aren't perfect. It was the best I could do. So we start off by heading down the main straight over the start and finish line. And here I'm looking for the last of the lampposts but one. So this one here, just before the end of the railings there, hard on the brakes and all the way down into 2nd gear, and we're looking for the apex of the corner. I'm changing up into 3rd as we reach that apex and just coming off the accelerator just ever so slightly, on a tad and then off, just a slight blip, down into 2nd, because what we want to do is to try and pick up this yellow part of the curb as we rotate around this corner. Then getting on the power as soon as you can. Now I'm staying in 2nd gear all the way through there. I did change up into 3rd, which you could try if you want to, but I tended to find that that bogged the car down a little bit, and staying in 2nd worked a little bit longer. You can go a bit wider there as well as you come into this little section, across that curb in 3rd gear, and then keep it over to the left-hand side. Still in 3rd gear, now moving back across to the right, looking for this orange sausage curb, and ideally I want to pick up that curb, and I've gone a little bit wide on this particular lap. You want to be further over to the right, which will then open up the corner, and then you can get the power on quicker down this straight. Then it's just a case of getting up through the gears as fast as you can. As you head down into this corner, watch for the end of the grey bit of curb on the left hand side there, and that black tyre mark on the white bit. That is what I'm using as a brake reference, and I'm braking all the way down to 3rd as I'm aiming towards again this little sausage. Just trying to keep on the inside of the sausage. I just caught it a little bit there, which upset the car just a little bit. Staying in 3rd gear, getting the power on as we go up the hill. And again, you can use more of the track. I'm not really using enough on this particular lap. You could be further over to the left, but you do want then to get over to the right hand side, and you're looking for the curb as soon as you can. So as soon as you see the curb, you want to start to introduce the brake about halfway down there, just to slow the car down and get the car turned. You can take a lot of the curb across that particular one. Now, I've got the car in the way here, but what I actually want to do is put the left-hand wheels on the curb, as I've done there. And then as you jump across, get the left-hand wheels on this curb, and very often you can change up into 5th gear. I was a little bit late there because of overtaking the car, but change down to 5th between those two corners. Over to the right and then sweep across the left, using this sausage curb, just riding that. Then getting onto this white patch on the inside of the corner, being careful not to catch the end of the green barrier there, and then just let the car drift over to the left as we hurtle down this hill. Coming down here, I am looking for that little black box on the left hand side. It's like a speed sign, or it'd actually be a flag sign, won't it? A yellow flag sign. As soon as you see that, slow that down. Down at the third gear, you can take loads of this curb and then get back on the power as soon as you can, just using the exit curb there for a little bit of speed up this hill. Now we're just going to stay completely flat through here. We come across to the curb on the right hand side. As soon as you see that, start to drift across, and now you're looking for that white bit on the inside of the curb. Just try and touch that on the latter part of that curb, so just the end bit of the white part, and then bring the car again across onto this curb and then let it drift across the track again. So we're really drifting from one side of the track to the other. And I did that quite nicely, whereas earlier in the lap I wasn't really using enough of the track. As we go down through here, I'm really using that 50 marker board on the left hand side as it leaves the screen. Just get this down into fourth gear. Again, you can take loads of the curb here using that little brown concrete bit on the inside. Be careful it doesn't drift out too wide on the exit. That was a little bit wider than I would have liked, but we got away with that. You can see how it upsets the car if you don't get it just nice. And again, through here, you can get up onto the curb if you want to straighten out that corner a little bit. And for this one, I tried to keep the left-hand wheels just to the inside of the sausage curb. Again, if you get up onto the sausage curb, it is going to unsettle the car a little bit. Then let the car just drift across to the right hand side as it's going to want to. And then we're looking for these little tyre marks on the floor there and the curb, just to start to slow it down a little bit, down into fourth gear, and then let this car absolutely run around this curb. Again, the car is going to slide out to the right hand side of the track. That's absolutely perfect, no worries at all. Building on the power all the way through the latter part of that corner, and then fully on the power up through the gears, and then we will start another lap. And that was my lap for 1:33.5. I'm pretty sure that you could do that a lot quicker because I didn't use all the tracking places and it wasn't an overly clean lap, if I'm perfectly honest. So now let's have a look at the full race and how I got gold. Now this is on the hard settings, and if you're a good racing driver, I'd expect you to be able to do this one pretty easily, but this is how I did it as an average driver. So we're hurtling down into the first corner. As always, all the braking zones, the turning zones, etc. are compromised because all I want to do is get through the traffic. As always with the AI, it will ram you at the first possible opportunity. So there are occasions where I am throwing it up the inside, I am just nudging the AI through some of the corners, and I really don't care about that. I'm not going for a clean race bonus in this one. I'm literally trying to get the gold cup on the hard settings and just the satisfaction of being able to do it. So you can see here I'm trying to hook up as much of what we learned in the little slow motion walkthrough, but you can see that I'm already having to adjust ever so slightly as we work our way through these back markers. As with most of these X2019 races, I tended to find that getting through the back markers was fairly easy. Once you start getting up to about position 4, then it starts to get a little bit more difficult. This is one of the places where you can pull an overtake just going up the inside, get it slowed down at the 4th gear, use those curbs, and that is an area where you can get an overtake done on the way in, and you can just see how far you've left that car behind, a full second behind. Getting a good run off of that corner again can really help you with a drag down this long straight. But obviously what you've got to do is be very careful into this first corner. If you are more in the middle or the left hand side of the track, you've got to slow down a little bit earlier. You can have a more acute angle into the corner, so just really keep that one in mind. This is a little complex that I never really got perfect that I liked. You can use the runoff at the exit of the corner there, although that isn't something I particularly like to do. This again is another area where you can pick up some speed on the other cars because they tend to go a little bit wider. I like to take the inside line there and jump across the sausage curb. You can see there that I am absolutely pushing this as much as I can. That's my first little mistake where I've gone wide. There is a red runoff there that you can use, so don't worry about that too much. This is another area we can really close up, looking for that blank yellow or red flag board, the little signal board. Bury the brake pedal down in there and take loads of the curb will really help you. And you can tell we're going through these laps so quickly. This is why I did the slow-mo, because I'm talking about one corner and we're about 3 or 4 corners further on. So what I would say, all gone a bit wide through there as well, a bit of a runoff. Now if you do go wide on that one, my advice is not to come back over the sausage curb. Try and just run to the end of the sausage and then come back on afterwards, because you will find it to be a little bit cleaner and you will save yourself a tenth or two of time. So what I was about to say is please pause and rewind this video as needed, just to have a look at my turning points and my braking points and acceleration points. But if you do that, you're going to find that things change greatly throughout the race. The other thing in this one is I'm running fuel map 1, I've got traction control on full, and I've got my brake balance to the rear. So I've got fuel map 1 will get us all the way to the end without any worries about fuel, although we will be pit stopping once. I've got the brake balance full to the rear to try and take some of the pressure off of those tyres. And I've got it to the rear, I can't remember if I've got it to the rear or front, have a look at the beginning of the video. And the traction control full on 5, just to make sure that you know, we're not spinning too much when we are putting the power down. Talking about the power, I'm trying to keep the gears up as high as I can, so mainly about 3 or 4 when I'm exiting corners. I am using second gear as we enter into some of the corners, but 3 and 4 means you can start to get the power down without spinning the rear wheels up too much, because you do want to try and save your tyres as much as possible. We're looking to pit on this one on lap number 7. Some of the cars will pit around then. Very often the leader will go a bit further. If he does, don't worry, pit on number 7, because that way you will get the most out of these racing soft tyres. Now, gone a little bit wide there on the grass. Try not to do that, because you'll see just how much time you will lose. And just bear in mind, with all these little mistakes, if you add all of those tiny little mistakes that I'm making up, or some of the bigger ones, then add those to the time at the end of this race, you can see, even as an average driver, you should be able to finish this one with this race strategy and this car set up by about 30 seconds ahead of everybody else. As I said, this wasn't perfect. I went in the back of that car a little bit there. This wasn't a perfect run. I don't feel that I had a perfect lap at all through this race. Every single one of them I felt I could have done better in lots of different areas. But again, this is just how I managed to get the gold on the hard settings as an average driver, really showing that most of us out there should be able to do this one relatively easily. And the other thing I want to do with this video, and just leaving it to run like we are now, is you can see just how much downforce there is on this X2019 car, and how much you have to just rely on it going through some of these corners so much faster than you would think. Actually slow down when it went to 3rd gear for the entrance to that corner, but immediately straight up into 4th to carry that speed through that final corner, and then to try and close up on the 2nd place runner as we've done. Second through here, that's probably one of the only corners where I'd say you really need to be second just through that little complex. Otherwise, using second to slow down for some of the corners is worthwhile. Otherwise, 3rd and 4th gear through and exiting the corner really is the way to go, in my opinion. So again, coming down into here, you'll see a lot of these corners, now that I'm starting to feel a little bit more confident with the car, I'm taking a lot of these in 3rd rather than slowing down all the way to second. Again here, I've got a nice overtake opportunity through there. The AI cars do tend to stay very much in the middle of the road through there, rather than using all of the curbs. So if you get your car right up on the curb, there's no penalties or anything through there that I found. You can get your car right up on the curb and you can make up some good time. The same with that corner we've just been through. Get right the way across those sausages, use all of the curb, and that will give you the opportunity to carry a little bit more speed up the hill. This is a corner that you need to be a little bit careful on. It's very, very easy to go wide, and then it's very easy then to back out and you'll lose all of the speed through that corner. Although it isn't really a compound corner, I very much drove it like a compound corner. So when I went into the right-hander, I was thinking about getting that right-hander done, then getting out onto the outside of the corner on the curb, and then keep the car turning to get the apex on the right-hand side before you then pick up the left-hand apex. So that was very much what I refer to as a compound corner strategy to be able to carry a lot of speed through that corner. Again, well, we're halfway around the lap whilst we're still talking about that corner that we just did before. Otherwise, it really is just a case of continuing to push on and try and work your way through the traffic. We've done that quite nicely. Lap 6 and we're up to position 2, right behind the leader right now, and we've got a good run through here. And unfortunately, I tried to get him on the inside there and caught the wall, which was a little bit unfortunate, and that's put us a little bit back. But I'm going to close under braking here, using my trick of getting across the curb, get the power down. Now maybe, if you look at the way that he's just come off of that corner, maybe cutting that corner is not necessarily the fastest way through there, but for me, it tended to be the way that I happen to like going through there. A slight nudge on the way in there, just to make sure that we can get that move done. And as I said, if you treat that corner like a long compound curve, you can carry a lot more speed through there than the AI cars do. Then it's a case of coming down through here as quick as possible to begin lap number 7 and our last lap before we pit. Now, I haven't mentioned the tyres, but if you look at those right now, the front tyres are looking pretty reasonable. The rear tyres looking pretty worn. There's a little bit of life in there, but this car is now really starting to move around under braking and turning. So you will need to just keep that in mind, and you'll notice that our best lap is a 1:33.5. We did drop that by a whole second to a 1:34.7 as the car began to slide around a little bit more. You can see there, I got a very unusual line out of that corner where the car was sliding, suddenly caught a bit of grip and snapped. We got away with that, but be very, very, very minded that once these tyres, you get to lap 5, 6 and 7, those tyres are really starting to hurt. And I tended to find the mid to the latter part of lap 5, despite it being my fastest lap so far, was when I started to feel those tyres going. So my advice to you with regards to tyres, all the way through this race from the very beginning, is try not to spin them up, so using 3rd and 4th gear, and try not to throw the car too much through these corners so you don't get too much lateral movement, which is going to therefore scrub the tyres a little bit more. So as you close out this race, the rear tyres are pretty much all but done. So we're going to keep left, dive into the pits. We're going to grab another set of racing soft tyres. You'll notice that the little diamond is right at the end of the fuel, but the cruising range is saying that we've got a fair few number of laps left. We've only got to do 7, so I chose not to take any fuel, just to save a little bit more time and to try and get out on track as quickly as we can and in some air, which I've managed to do, thankfully. We've got 1.7 to Drummond behind us in 4th, and we've got a little bit of a gap to the car in front, 7.5 seconds. Obviously, when you come out of the pits, be careful, these tyres are going to be cold, and already I was trying to push a little bit too hard. You can see a little bit of a wiggle there just to try and build some heat into the tyres. But again, as I come down into here, I've gone a little bit wide in there just because these tyres are a little bit colder than I would have liked. the tyres really start to come up to temperature, in my opinion, after you've gone through this section, which really works those tyres. At this point now, I believe that you can really start to push on again, and the tyres will be back up to their optimal temperature. So down the hill, looking for that board. There we go. Slowing it down again. That is not the distance board. It is the yellow or red flag board. That's where you want to brake, and then flat pretty much all the way through here, just coming up through the gears. Just before the 50, getting it slowed down, round about the 50-meter board, depending on how you're braking. If you can brake hard enough, brake on the 50. If you're not braking quite hard enough, just brake a little bit before there. And then just watch for the apexes on all of these corners. If you can apex the corners, you're pretty much going to do this one quite nicely. So we've got Bonelli has just dived into the pits now as well. That just leaves Serrano, and at this point I was thinking, we're now on lap 9. Is that car going to stop? Or is he super fast on medium tyres? You can see there that I'm really pushing it, and the back end got away from me there with a double slide. Managed to catch that, which enabled us to keep on pushing, which is really fortunate. But although most of the lap looks fairly stable, you can see that I am really pushing this car to what I consider to be the limit, and occasionally you will see it sliding around that back end, wanting to come around and switch with the front, and just really reading the steering wheel, the feedback that you're being given, and just pushing. I'm actually doing this with my new Logitech DD Pro, and one of the things I love about that wheel is with the True Force, you can actually feel the tyres gripping through these corners, and it gives you a lot of confidence to push. And occasionally I will push just a little bit too far, and that's when that back end starts to step out and want to do something that we don't want it to do. So we're just coming around to finish lap number 9 now. We are a full 10 seconds off of the first place runner, and he's now on his 10th. He's only got 4 laps to run, and he's still not pitted. So again, I'm starting to think, whoa, we're really going to have to start pushing here. I can't sit back and just save the tyres. I'm really going to need to push, even though the car behind is now a full 8 seconds behind us, and we do seem to be pulling away from that third place racer. I was really concerned about catching up with Serrano and seeing if I could get this done on the last lap, and I'm thinking that my tyres are going to be in much better condition than the first place runner. So I was really pushing, and again you can probably see through this particular lap that it isn't really perfect. The lap before was at 1:35.8, which is basically a full second off of my normal pace, but you'll see the lap times are over the place. The first lap was a 1:34.5, then I put in 3 1:35s, which tended to be my go for lap. If I could do a 1:35, I was relatively happy. If we dipped into 1:34, then that was really good, and that would then make up for some of the slower 1:35s. But again, you can see that following the pit stop, we are doing a 1:35.820. Hopefully this one will be just a little bit quicker now that we're building confidence in the car and these tyres. But these tyres did not feel as good as the first set, I'll tell you that for nothing. It took me a little bit of time to get my confidence, and there you go. Couple of laps, so the out lap and the next lap really building confidence. We now put a 1:34.6 in, which I'm really pleased about. It is a second off of the 1:33.5 that we did earlier on, but that was probably one of my best laps, and I believe that we were using a little bit of slipstream in there as well. The slipstream being pretty powerful around here, so if you can use a slipstream, then do so. But don't use a slipstream and then tuck in behind somebody through the corners. You are going to need to get past them through careful braking and judgment through these corners. For now, We're continuing to push on. The time is dropping. We're down to a little over 5 seconds. We can actually see Serrano ahead of us now, using all of the curb through there and more, pretty much all 4 wheels off the track. But you can see we actually closed up a little bit more there, 5.3, 5.2. The time is coming down all the time at the moment. Again, being really brave through there. A little dab of third because I felt I left my braking a little bit too late, but then straight up into 4th gear to carry as much speed round that little complex as I could. Again, 3rd gear just to slow the car down and for a tad bit of rotation, and straight up into 4th gear. And we've managed to close that gap now down to just over 3.5 seconds. So really pushing on. At this point we can now see the car in front. We're now in full chase mode. You can see I'm moving further over to the right hand side there. You can actually get over that line there and take an even wider line, but I tended to find that the line I took there was the one that was better for me, and it just seemed to leave the car a little bit more settled. At this point I'm very much minded again of the tyres. We're about halfway through this stint and the tyres are pretty much half worn on the rears, and if I'm going to have a battle with Serrano at the end of this one, I really want to have a little bit of tyre left, just in case I do need to throw it up the inside, or even do an audacious outside overtake around one of the corners where I needed the grip. But here we are closing up. You can see there I'm avoiding that curb at the moment. I'm using more of Serrano's lines through here, and I'm trying to save the tyres for the reasons that I just mentioned. We've now got that down to around about a second, so hopefully picking up a little bit of slipstream, using all of the inside of the curb back there. As we come down into this one, getting up across on the curb, 3rd, just to get it slowed down, because I thought I was going to run into the back of him. Now I didn't want to run into the back of him on that one, because it would have pushed him forward and it would pull me back, and then I would not have been on the back, and I wanted the drag race down into this first corner. Again, I was on the inside, so the angles weren't quite optimal, but we managed to get that slowed down, using 2nd gear again through there, up into 3rd as quick as we can across this curb, down into 2nd for rotation, picking up this curb in 3rd. That was actually a really nice corner. I like that one very much, and I wish I'd done most of my other corners like that one for the early part of the race. Again, we're in front at the moment now, so I really need to just think carefully now about the tyres and just maintaining the gap to Serrano before. Now I didn't want to back off too much and then find that I invoke a careless mistake by backing off more than I needed to. So I am keeping the pressure on a little bit, but you'll notice that I am not using all the track quite as much as normal. I say that and I've just jumped straight away across the inside of that corner, but you'll see there, well within the track limits, completely on the track at the moment. This one I got used to cutting, but again not drifting too far out, picking up the apex there, and this one quite nicely. Down into this corner, looking for that tyre mark, slowing it down up into 4th as soon as we can. So at the end of this lap we've got the gap out to 4 seconds, which was quite good. At this point I was thinking that Serrano's tyres must have done, and as I was thinking that, dives into the pits to get rid of the medium tyres. So he was actually doing really well on the mediums, but that is going to give us a nice cushion to the car behind now. Looking at the timing chart there, it's bouncing around a little bit, but looking like 19 seconds to the 2nd place person. So whilst we've really been pushing a little bit harder than we should to catch up with Serrano, we didn't really need to do that. We were taking a lot more chances than we needed to. So I think that if you're in the same position I am, where you're in 2nd place and the 1st place runner is a little bit away from you but hasn't pitted, don't worry too much about throwing this car around all over the place to catch up. You know, maybe just back off a little bit, because it looks like you're going to catch up with them through the pit stops. Although If you want to do what I've done and just really go for it, well, then you can win by some significant margin. Now you can see here that we are 22 seconds ahead of the second place runner, and I'll remind you that I don't think I've had one lap that I would consider to be a good lap for my ability. I think an average racer should be able to go a little bit faster than I was on pretty much all of those laps. Maybe putting in a 1:34 would be what you want to be aiming for, but we were 22.5 seconds ahead of the second place runner, 23.5 seconds ahead of the third place runner, and 24.5 ahead of the next. So a nice easy win. I didn't get a clean bonus, so I just moved on quickly from that one. We did get the 200,000 credits. That was how I did this X2019 Red Bull Nations Cup race at Maggiore. It was a circuit that I'm not overly good on. It's not one of my better circuits, but I did find that this car was really good around here, and you can carry a lot more speed through some of these sweeping corners than you think. And a lot of this was a case of just believing in the downforce of the car, staying in the higher gears, making sure that you can get the car up the inside on some of these corners, being careful with the sausage curbs that you don't unsettle the car too much, but mainly just getting through these back markers as fast as you can and then getting onto the front runners. Remembering that if you get into second place, keep an eye on who is in first place, whether they've pitted, and I think that all of the AI cars in this race are going to end up pitting. I did try this with the medium tyres, but when you get to around about a lap 11 and 12, it really is like driving on ice, and it was really difficult. So I hope you found this video useful. If you have, please hit the like button. If you're new around here, please subscribe to the channel because it will really help me. If you're back for more, thanks ever so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you on another one coming very soon. For now, take care. Bye-bye.